Welcome back to FilmFloggers. We review films and flog dead horses, so you don't have to. Is this week's film choice a complete waste of your viewing time? Much like flogging/beating dead horses, get it? Please head over to www.filmfloggers.com to check out all of our previous floggings. And while you're there, maybe hang out for a while, look around and vote for our next film. Click on vote, or visit www.filmfloggers.com/vote. Are you an idiot? If so, please check out our Idiot's Guide to Reviewing Us, where even a big dummy like you can leave us a red-hot review. Here at FilmFloggers, we pride ourselves on offering 1-star content with 5-star effort. Once on the website, please click on Idiot's Guide, or visit us at www.filmfloggers.com/review-us. That should have been Idiot's Guide. My fault, I didn't change the URL. Annoying. Once again, filmfloggers.com/review-us. Believe it or not, we now have a Patreon. I know what you're thinking. You have the audacity to ask us to pay to receive more of this. Pause for dramatic effect. Yes. We have a Patreon exclusive show called Nitpickers. I think you'll like it. Please visit www.filmfloggers.com/support-us. Again, that hyphen is annoying, should have removed it. Or head straight to our Patreon page. Patreon.com/filmwafflers. No idea why I did film wafflers. Another mistake. Where you can support us for as little as £1 British or $1.50. And while you're on the website, punch that big purple subscribe button and tell a friend about the vlog. Wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, mistress, your nan, granddad, your kids. They can tell their friends. They can tell their friends at school about the vlog. But in all seriousness, this really helps the podcast grow and enables us to enrich or ruin the lives of the hundreds of millions of earlobes we haven't reached yet.
All right, okay, so talking about Psycho today. Yeah? Oh, it's a big one.
Jesus.
It's a biggie.
Yeah. Yeah, huge. Massive.
Yeah. So 1960 Hitchcock, but also we've also straight after watched the Gus Van Sant 1996, was it? Remake?
98, I think.
So I've seen both before, but very, very sort of far apart. And I didn't realise that the Gus Van Sant is literally a sort of shot-by-shot remake.
I've seen it before, and I knew, by the way, everyone, this is a shot-for-shot remake of Psycho. I was like, okay. The opening credits, you get the building. Oh, man, it is, yeah. You're told it is. You're told exactly what it is. But as the film goes, it's like, oh, yeah, now this is exactly the same, but just so much worse. What are we doing here?
I don't know. And I mean, I guess some of the dialogue is lifted straight out of the original. Some of it's either been shortened or slightly changed, but really, I mean, every encounter between the characters, every action is just a mirror of the original, with just a few additions that are just, for example, I mean, most notably, well, there's a couple, aren't there? There's a couple of scenes in this which are quite kind of well known amongst its critics. The first being Norman Bates looking through the peephole at oh dear,
Marion.
Who's he looking at? Yeah, he's looking at Marion.
Yeah,
and he actually starts wanking off in this one.
Oh, Vince Vaughan, yeah.
He starts blasting off, and we get that.
Yeah,
which I just find, we didn't have that in the original. And not to sound prude or to get sort of sanctimonious with it, but you just don't need that. It doesn't add to his creepiness. His creepiness in the original, played by Anthony Perkins, is that he does have this kind of, well, because he is evil in his own way. Seeing that he's got these actually seeing his sort of human urges manifest on the screen through seeing him actually doing that, looking at Marion, it takes that mystery away. It's like catching Michael Myers having a wank in one of the babysitter's houses. It just wouldn't add to the creepiness of the guy.
Well, we don't need it though, because ultimately I think Vince Vaughan, he's not like he's fine in this. He's fine for what he's doing. He looks creepy. The second you see Vince Vaughan, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure he's going to be up to no good. When you first see Norman in the original, Anthony Perkins, it's like, oh yeah, he's like the boy next door. He's young, he's quite cute, I suppose, for women, if they saw him, oh yeah, he seems like he's all right, he's nice. He's nice to Marion. He's obviously got these issues of his mum, he's got this relationship with his mum, you're like, oh, that's terrible for poor Anthony, oh no.
And then he switches, like sort of flick of a switch, he just... Obviously
at the time, this is 1960 for the original, so the film, when it first came out, everyone was like, oh my God, what's Hitchcock doing? This is pretty risque. A lot of it was pretty controversial. So there was no way, even if Hitchcock would have wanted to get Norman start, masturbating, that's not going to fly anyway. There's no way that's happening in 1960.
But he wouldn't. He wouldn't
No, exactly.
want it because
there's no need for it.
You don't need it.
Say if you've walked into 98 Psycho and you never heard of the original Psycho and you hadn't seen, you didn't know it existed, and then you watch Vince Vaughn, you're like, okay, right, yeah, okay, seems, yeah, interesting, and then he starts wanking through the peephole. It's like, well, okay, I don't.
What are we doing, Gus?
You don't know for sure when the shower scenes happen that's Vince Vaughn with a really terrible wig on, just rubbish looking wig. But you're like, well, I've seen him masturbate while watching Anne Heche undress, so he's a bit, he's not great, whatever's going on. But maybe that's just because he's lonely, he's in this motel by himself with his mum, and maybe.
I think the character is then brought into the territory of being seedy as opposed to really creepy.
It's a lot more sexualised, this version of Norman, isn't it?
Way more, and it becomes he almost becomes just a sort of seedy motel owner, as opposed to this guy who you can't quite grasp the extent of how deranged he is. But anyway, that's it.
Well, you don't root for Norman in the 98 one. The good thing about the 1960 one is that you shift your sympathies pretty quickly onto Norman. So after Marion gets killed, and obviously at the time you're like, oh God, his mum's done it, I can't believe it. You then get the bit where the car's going into the swamp and then it kind of gets stuck, doesn't it? And then Norman's there like going, oh shit, oh God, it's not going to sink. As the audience, you're like, oh Christ, oh God, I hope it sinks. Oh God, if it doesn't sink, he's in trouble here. That's maybe because you may not have had that much sort of affection towards Marion anyway, because we've known her for 40 minutes or whatever before she dies. I don't think she's that great anyway.
Well, no, I mean, she's an embezzler.
Yeah.
She's a chancer, yeah.
With this, it's not the same because the performance maybe isn't as good and whatever, but it's not. You're not sitting there when you're watching Vince Vaughn do the same thing, going like, "Oh God, I'm rooting for Vince here."
Thinking, oh God, that car needs to go in.
Yeah, I hope he gets away with it. And then you're like, "Oh God, Norman, his bloody mother, poor guy. Hope that car sinks."
I mean, the other big sort of, I don't know if it's a blooper or whether it was intended to be this, but whenever old Marion actually keels over in the bath in the 1998 film, well, we get it's a full anus shot.
Yeah, it's butthole, yeah. To be honest, I don't really want to be seeing Anne Heche's butthole.
No.
I'm not an Anne Heche bloke, to be honest. I'm not enjoying that.
But again, it's just, I mean, obviously, this woman has been murdered in the shower. So, she's a corpse and she's probably struggling for breath or whatever's going on. So, I mean, the dignity side of things is out of the equation. That's not really what you're expecting. But at the same time, a sort of closing, lingering shot of that is it's just a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it, from Gus? I'm just watching it going, hang on, what's happening? What are we achieving with this?
What are we doing, Gus?
What are we trying to get out of this?
Why do we need the butthole? What's the point you're trying to prove here?
Well, the other head scratcher for me was when they recreate that infamous scene where, not infamous, that's a word that I think it gets thrown around a lot. Infamous, I don't really think that applies here. The famous scene, I should say, when he's going up the stair, when the private investigator in the 98, played by William H Macy, shout out to our Fargo episode. So that scene is recreated, and whenever Norman Bates comes out of his mother's bedroom and comes across the landing and stabs him in the face, they recreate again that classic sort of levitating down the stairs look. But it's also cut between just random shots of there's a woman lying on a bed in bondage. There's a cow in the road, and then there's something else.
Are you not having regular nightmares of cows on the road?
Is that some kind of subliminal nightmare shit? What on earth are we doing?
For who, though? For William H Macy? Is he... Obviously, I know they say before you die, your life flashes before you. Is
that his life? Were they the big moments from old William's life? The cow in the road?
Well, yeah, maybe that was some scenes from previous cases.
I have absolutely no idea what that was.
That scene when obviously they're falling down the stairs, like it looks even the 1960, you're like, oh my God.
It's unbelievable.
It looks like a bloke on just like roller skates.
Well, he's been rigged up. I mean, he's been rigged up to just a humongous pulley system, like rigged up to those stairs.
I'm assuming they must have done something where it's a green screen. They've got the green screen ready to go, and then it's just effectively him in both versions, just falling backwards into the green screen, and then the camera actually moving down the stairs, but obviously the bloke's obviously not there.
I don't know.
They're just moving down empty stairs with the green screen there, and then adding the bloke in between them.
No, would he not just be would he not just be on some kind of ramp that he's fastened into that just kind of slowly moves him back?
Well, no, but he's not going down those stairs. There's no way. That background's green screen. Has to be. That's not the stairs. There's no way.
Right, okay.
Can't be.
I don't know.
Well, if it is, like, I don't know what's happened. I think both directors have put the wrong lens on or something because it looks, looks terrible.
Well, it's very dramatic, isn't it?
It's 1960, so it's like whatever.
It's almost deliberate. You know, it's. I don't know whether Alfred Hitchcock is trying to make that look like an accurate, you know, what it would look like for someone falling down the stairs. But it's a moment of kind, you know, you see on the guy's, the whole thing, the camera's focused on his face and his facial expressions and his shock. It's more about the shock of it than you know, the shock on his face than actually him falling down those stairs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the stairs is just the bit that happens because he's on the top of the stairs and like, where's he going to go?
But really, it's the shock of the guys in the man's face. But I don't know.
It's a shot for shot, all this stuff, but it's just not. You can't do it that way because it's not going to work. You've got different characters. You've got different like technologies moved on. It's just not going to work, is it?
Yeah, and it's just different times. You know, it just doesn't. It works in the 60s because people's behaviour's changed. I don't know whether that was maybe the point of the actual masturbation scene where he was going, okay, well, you know, back in the 60s, even Norman Bates would have probably kept his penis in his trousers. Move through to the 90s, people have got a little bit more loose. But I don't think it is that. But it's just it's really it's strange. I mean, actually, whenever they cut, they introduce cuts of the sky and clouds moving in the sky in the shower scene.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. God. I thought when we did this review, we'd maybe sort of do half and half, but I think there's just no point. Like, that's stupid. We're obviously talking a bit more about the 98 one, but the 1960 Hitchcock, that's the one you need to be talking about.
Yeah.
We're into cut between the two when it's necessary and when it makes sense. But I think with with Gus, it's like, well, you know, what's happening? Because, you know, this is a year after Good Will Hunting, for Christ's sake. I was going to look at some of the trivia and I was like, you know, again, there just looked like there was pages of trivia for Psycho. So I had a couple of bits and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing it. There's no point. Then we're getting bogged down with this bullshit trivia. I'm not sure if he won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting. It won Oscars. I know Robin Williams won an Oscar. I don't know if Gus did, though. But it was very successful. Everyone loved it. It was a huge film, huge success. So I'm imagining that after that, maybe Gus has had in his head that he wants to do this Psycho for a number of years, and he's gone to the studio. Look, this is what I want to do. No, like, Gus, you know, God, big success with Good Will Hunting. You know, what do you want? What's next for Gus?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do a shot for shot Psycho. Sorry. Yeah, I want to do a remake of Psycho, but shot for shot. Are you sure? Oh yeah. And then maybe pitched it where he said, I can get these people on board because it's reasonably well
star-studded. There's all sorts of people in it.
Anne Heche.
Yeah. Sorry, not star-studded. Maybe.
Well, she was quite big at the time. I think the late 90s. She was doing well. And I guess that's just it. They've just gone, well, okay, well, you've made us X amount of money for Good Will Hunting. Very successful. You know, we'll give you one for free. Yeah, do whatever you want.
But the budget's huge for this as well, isn't it? It's a big budget. It's like 60 million.
Probably, yeah.
I think it's actually like 60 million.
Yeah, is it? Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Imagine a lot of that's gone on the cast.
Yeah, 60 million.
60 million, yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go.
I mean, how on earth do you get a £60 million budget for something? I mean, it's not a £60 million film. Barring the salaries of the actors, it's...
surely that's where it's gone. I'm guessing they've rebuilt the house. That's not the same house.
Oh yeah, but I mean, it's not 60
million. Well, no, but where else is it gone? Like, it's obviously like Vince Vaughan at this point is not sort of star-studded. He's not commanding a $10 million salary.
Julianne Moore, she's in it. It's odd.
It's gone wherever it's gone. It's not helped. With Gus, it's just his career is all over the place. And some of the films he's done, like he's a good director.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
I wouldn't even say that he's poorly directed Psycho 98. It was never going to work anyway. Whatever you'd have done, whoever would have been behind the camera, it was fucking stupid.
The whole concept's just so flawed. You know, there must be people who actually do think there is merit in this and that it was a useful exercise for some reason, which we're clearly not seeing.
Well, it's like it reminds me of what you'd get if you just kind of got some sort of media studies students, some film students going like, let's have some fun with Psycho.
Let's just prove that we can actually replicate the same techniques that Hitchcock used as a way to just try and master some of the old techniques.
Because that's all it is. It's just a bunch of people in the same sets doing the same things, copying the same shots.
It's like a workshop exercise from a degree course.
Yeah, how well can we mirror the original Psycho, modern day? With the technology we've got now, you know, can we potentially improve certain shots? Can we do certain things better? Let's have a look. Let's have a go. There's your essay. Enjoy.
But then, how does that then explain, the scene of Norman Bates going up the stairs in the house just with those extremely tight slacks on, just sort of mincing up those stairs?
Oh, he's got that like skin-tight turtleneck.
Yeah,
on.
he's got the turtleneck on and he's got these
Tucked
really
in.
tight pants on and he's just sort of dancing up the stairs. I mean, what are we doing? What are we trying to create with Norman Bates? I mean,
fucking skin-tight turtleneck tucked into the jeans.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's a strange wardrobe selection. And
for the whole film.
For the whole film. And, I mean, he kicks proceedings off whenever he first meets Marion wearing a sort of corduroy green blazer with a floral shirt.
Just wearing that around the house.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like a sort of... He looks like
Well, he looks like a man who's got some problems. Who's up in that house going insane. Talking to his dead mother.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but, who knows? Possibly.
Yeah, it's really, really strange.
Well, what else I had to say about the 98? We'll come back to it if it's relevant, but like, there's nothing. I've just got here, update-wise, wanking for Vince, butthole for Anne Heche. Terrible dream nightmare sequences.
I think as well, I mean, I've read some reviews that have been really critical of Vince Vaughn and almost say that, the reason this falls over is because of the Vince Vaughn performance. But I was thinking about the job, the actor's job, if he steps into the shoes of, the Anthony Perkins role. An actor would be so limited in the amount of nuance you can introduce to that if it's such an iconic performance. It's the same dialogue, so you're ultimately trying to get to the same thing, and that role has already been mastered by Anthony Perkins. So that kind of takes that creative freedom away from the actor, where really you can't totally reinvent the scene. You can't bring your own take on the character because the dialogue is exactly the same and the story is going to go in exactly the same places. It's been mastered already, and as a result, you can't help but just get an attempt at the Anthony Perkins performance, which I don't think is how you get a good role out of an actor. Because an actor there has to be breathing space to allow for them to introduce their own little variations, nuances to that role. You can't do that if you're trying to mirror an already mastered performance. I don't know. I wouldn't ever be like harsh about Vince Vaughn because I don't know what else he could have done, to be quite honest.
No, it's not his fault. It's just, like you said, what are you supposed to do in this situation?
I don't know.
I imagine they probably all watched it beforehand as well, or they would have seen it. What's he supposed to do? I think the best bits with Vince Vaughn is when he's sort of stumbling around and he's when he's been questioned by William H Macy and he's like, well, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's Vince Vaughn to me. He's stumbling around, he's getting a bit nervous, even though we know by his look that he looks a bit out of place anyway. If you saw him, you'd be like, this guy looks suspicious. I don't know if I believe what you're saying, but that's when he's doing that. That's fine. But I imagine Vince Vaughn's probably just shitting himself the whole time, just going like, what can I do with this performance other than just
try and rehash the same thing.
Yeah, whilst wearing this explosive cloth.
Yeah, it's doesn't.
Yeah,
it just seems a
well,
bit
Gus has just got his films. Well, what have I seen? Good Will Hunting, this Elephant.
Yeah, I was going to say
pretty good.
I think that's one of my favourites by Gus Van Sant. Elephant. I think it's really good.
Milk.
I haven't actually seen Milk.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think that's it. I think he's done more, obviously, but they're the ones I've seen. So he's been around a while.
Oh yeah.
Look, without looking into it more, I'm assuming after Good Will Hunting, everyone was really excited and they were just like, Gus, here's one for free. What do you want to do? Anything you want. Yeah, I want to do this. Christ, are you sure? Yep. Yeah, I'm doing it. Oh, okay. Well, that's
there you go. 60 mil.
See what happens. And I imagine they probably thought, to be fair, Psycho. A lot of people hadn't even heard of Psycho. A lot of people didn't even know who Hitchcock was.
Well, they probably did, to be fair.
Well, but I mean, at this time, say late teens or whatever, if you're like born in the 80s and you hadn't been introduced to Hitchcock, or you vaguely knew what he was about, or you'd seen the shower scene and you were like, oh yeah, I've seen that. Who does that? Where's that from? Who directs that? What is that? It's famous, but I don't know what it is. I like how the violin blows out, brilliant. But
maybe he was just doing it as a big advert for the original. Maybe he was just like, do you know what? I'm in a position now where I've got all this influence, and I'm going to use that influence to just put the spotlight back on a film that I consider to be a masterpiece.
Well, it's just a weird mindset, isn't it? Because it's like, realistic. If someone went to you, here's the tools, go and do a shot-for-shot remake of Heat. Are you fucking insane? No, thank you. I'll leave Michael Mann's version well alone.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. No, you can do it. You've got 100 million here. Go and do it. No, thank you.
I mean, it would be quite funny to see the output of that. You know, my attempts to recreate heat on probably an iPhone.
Yeah,
it would.
Or maybe, yeah.
I mean, who would? Yeah, I don't know what.
Or just do Heat 2.
Heat 2, yeah.
Just do the sequel, yeah. De Niro came out at the end.
Yeah,
and he's still running.
Set in Yorkshire.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting one. Okay, right. Well, I guess the original. I mean, I'm assuming you've got a scroll as long as your arm there.
I've got some. It depends what's relevant to talk about. What's worth keeping. Well, Hitchcock, I suppose.
I need to just say right now, I'm a little bit intimidated by this, but carry on.
Oh mate. Well, I've seen a decent amount of Hitchcock, I think.
Okay.
Especially over the last maybe 2 or 3 years, I feel like it's been a hole which I've not, bar maybe Psycho and maybe Vertigo. I've not seen enough Hitchcock, so I've tried to watch a bit more. And I know you've got that lovely Blu-ray box set sitting there,
very nice,
which has been untouched up to this point, unfortunately.
Well, no, it hasn't. I mean, I watched Rear Window.
Oh right,
I watched Rear Window.
Oh right, yeah, very good. Is the in that box set? You probably, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but is Lifeboat in there?
I don't know.
Lifeboat, that's good.
Is it?
It's a good one, that. Very good Hitchcock. That.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that was one of that. I saw that a while ago. That was probably one of the first ones I watched to get back into Hitchcock, or to try and sort of maybe catch up on some of the ones that I'd missed. It's set, I think, during World War II, and there's a load of people on a lifeboat, funny enough, and they rescue a German who's been blown out of one of the boats, and then obviously there's all this conflict about what to do with him on the boat, and can they trust him and all this kind of stuff. What have you sort of seen then from Hitchcock?
So the first Hitchcock I've seen is The Birds. I saw that years and years ago, and then I saw Psycho, and then Rear Window more recently. I've seen Psycho years and years ago, but then rewatched it obviously for this. But yeah, Rear Window I watched not so long ago. Which I think, to be honest, I'm sort of pleased that I've watched this at this stage of my life, because I don't think I'd have appreciated something like Rear Window as much had I watched it younger. Whenever you watch it now, it's almost like a stage play thing, because it's the way that they pan into these, almost the block of flats that he's looking into are almost like mini stages, and he obviously focuses in on one, and like the amount that he's able to convey, and all of the human stories behind the windows, he's able to convey quite literally just from keeping the camera fixed on from the window outside. But yeah, he's able to convey a huge amount by just having a stationary camera.
I think that's better. I think, especially for masterful directors like Hitchcock. You don't need to be going around doing all these set pieces, going to various different countries and flying everywhere and going on speedboats and all this sort of shit. Just keep it to 1 or 2 sets, and that will do. That's why Lifeboat's good. It's just they're just on a boat. That's the sign of a truly great director, isn't it? Who can just get these performances out of people and can make something interesting, a film, keep you, the viewer, engaged, and keep the film engaging with the characters, how he's directing it, not switching between various different locations, keeping it in one place, and having, maybe extended dialogue between characters.
I mean, it's one of those, isn't it, where, someone who's a true master at whatever it is, they make what they do look easy and simple. So you look at something like Rear Window, and you could be led to believe, God, this is very simple. He's just got the camera set up there. But there's obviously, behind that, there's so much coordination, and there's so much choreography of, where all these people need to get, where all these people need to be in relation to the camera, and all this sort of stuff, lighting, that you can be deceived into thinking, oh, this is quite straightforward. But actually, it's just because the guy is so competent and knows exactly what he needs to do that he pulls it off so what almost looks effortless. Yeah. But yeah, it's Rear Window was good. I enjoyed that. But obviously this is top notch. The Birds, I haven't seen that recently. But I mean, I think it's good.
Well, the thing is with The Birds and Psycho, these are sort of towards the latter part of his career, aren't they? He started, I think, in the 20s? I saw The Lodger a while ago.
The Lodger?
A silent film from Hitchcock.
Oh, really? What's that like?
But a Lodger. Yeah, it's all right. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... Look, the thing is, obviously, I haven't seen a great deal of silent films. So, of course, it's a bit of, oh, yeah, right, okay. When I first saw Nosferatu, I was like, okay. All right, okay, this is different.
I still haven't watched it. I mean, you've told me that I need to watch that. I haven't seen it.
Oh, yeah, you do.
I do, yeah.
Yeah. I think the remake of Nosferatu does a decent job as well. I think it's good, actually. Yeah, it's well done. Klaus Kinski is in that one. That guy's just, he's just fucking terrifying, isn't he, that bloke? He just looks like a monster. And, by the sounds of it, I think he was a bit of a monster, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a great bloke.
The Nosferatu, I mean, they are doing a remake. I think it might actually be old. What's that guy? Not Zoller. The guy who did like Brawl in Cell Block 99 and all that.
He's remaking Nosferatu.
I think he might be making one. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Right.
I think so. There was definitely sort of.
I thought something like Jordan Peele would jump on that or something.
No. It's I think it's him. That Craig something or other. Craig S.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Bone Tomahawk, yeah.
Yeah, Bone Tomahawk, yeah.
Zolomon, isn't it? Is it Zolomon?
Don't know.
Well, a couple of decent films. I wasn't sold on the
Dragged Across Concrete. Yeah, it didn't work.
Oh yeah, mate, Vince Vaughan.
Yeah, that didn't work at all.
No, Bone Tomahawk's unbelievable. An unbelievable film, actually. Really good.
So's Brawl in Cell Block 99 is pretty good as well, actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah, good shift there from Vince Vaughan.
Two very good films, yeah.
You know, you forget about Vince Vaughan, like he's huge as well.
He's huge.
He's like 6'6".
He's massive.
He's a chunk.
Oh, he's hit. Yeah, I mean, he's just this humongous force in Brawl in Cell Block 99. I mean, he just looks like he's made of he looks like he's made of concrete.
Yeah, brutal stuff.
Yeah, it is. A lot of heads getting.
Well, but
Hitchcock. Yeah, sorry.
You know, what have you got?
Hitchcock.
Yeah, well, I guess there's no point me going through all these films, isn't there? Yeah, I've seen Rebecca, I've seen Strangers on a Train, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Dial M for Murder. Pretty sure I've seen that.
Oh dear, I've had an absolute shocker with this. I mean, it's just it's embarrassing to me that I haven't seen Strangers on a Train. I know what it's about. I haven't seen Vertigo. I haven't seen Vertigo. It's pathetic, really.
Oh man, come on, you've got the box set.
I know.
It's
shocking.
What are you doing? Rope's pretty good.
Yeah.
Some James Stewart.
Frenzy.
James Stewart pops up in. That was one of the last films he did, wasn't it? Frenzy.
I think
that was in the 70s, wasn't it? I mean, that was okay. It was towards the end, so it was like decent, better than most, still. But we've gone over the peak of Hitchcock. That's the thing, though. As I said, with Psycho and The Birds, I think The Birds was reasonably well received, but I don't know if it was. I think some people had some problems with it.
Right.
This is the back end, and I think a lot of directors and a lot of people would say that it's very hard for directors to make films that increase in quality as they go. Good directors can make decent films with one or two that are a bit like, but the quality normally does get worse as they go. And I think Tarantino said something to this effect about not wanting to go on too long, not wanting to outstay his welcome. I think he wants to make one more film, and that's that. You just can't keep it up.
No.
And for Tarantino as well, what fucking Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction as the first two?
Yeah, where do you go
man,
from there,
well...
Yeah.
It's probably amazing that because he's so good, he's kept going. And people are still going like, yeah, he's still making really good films. I know some of his films people don't like, but he's kept the quality pretty high. But the way he started, it's like, well, where do you go from those?
Yeah, agreed.
Oh, my God. Or make Tarantino, I think, it could be now.
Yeah, well, he needs to be looked
What would you do for Tarantino? That's a tricky one. If you're going to just do one to start off with, where would you start with?
I think I'd probably go Reservoir Dogs, because Pulp Fiction, I know there's a lot of people who love it a lot more than I do. I mean, it's obviously very good, but I've never been absolutely mad about Pulp Fiction. I think Reservoir Dogs is really, I think that's very good. It's nice and condensed, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, again, there's 2 or 3 sets, isn't there, effectively, and that's it. Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously this Psycho, yeah, well, very good.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I think, yeah. Basically, what we're trying to say, Hitchcock's made a lot of good films. I've seen a few. Probably need to see more. You've seen like a few. You need to see more. That's it. We're not humongous Hitchcock fans, but not because we don't think he's brilliant.
No, we're just maybe not as clued up as
need to educate ourselves a bit more on them on this. But it's with most films that we do, you don't want to bog yourself down with what other people think of it, because then you start shitting yourself, don't you? And go like, oh God, I've got to get that in. I've got to try and sound really fucking intelligent. If I'm going to come to this conclusion, I need to make sure that I'm doing it by myself, rather than like, oh Tom, did you see this bit in the Psycho? Oh, you're not seeing that? Oh, you're an idiot. And on some of the stuff that I read about this film, there was something that kept coming up. So I feel like it's worth having a chat about. The relationship between Norman and his mother. The Oedipus Complex.
Right.
Have you heard of that?
Is this something about the mother?
It's about the son, kids. It's by Freud.
Oh, God, is this the thing about sexually attracted to your mother stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I think there's been a lot of things with this, for this film, and obviously Sigmund Freud's got obviously a lot of influence on a lot of cinema and art and culture and stuff. Yeah. I think some of his stuff's now, people are going like, I'm not too sure about that. But again, I don't know enough about Freud to start, debunking what he's saying.
Yeah, agreed, yeah.
With this, in Psycho, there's the Oedipus complex of the child, the son, being sexually attracted to the mother, and then obviously seeing the dad or another male as a threat. And it's not completely directly implied that Norman and his mum have had a sexual relationship, but their relationship's pretty deranged.
Would it not just be an attention thing and a stability thing?
He talks about how his dad died young, and this bloke comes in, makes his mum build this motel, and then from there, I think it's referenced at the end, but the guy starts breaking down what the fuck's happened during the whole film, what's wrong with Norman, effectively. It's referenced that this bloke came in, that ruined his relationship with his mum, he became jealous, and then ended up killing both of them. And then obviously couldn't live out his mum, so, stole her body and then started treating her and dressing her up and stuff. So, yeah, there's that kind of thread. I don't know if that's explored in the TV series. I know there's a TV series of Bates Motel.
It was about 4 series of that, I think.
I think it was reasonably well received. I think my mum's seen that, so I'm assuming maybe that's addressed in that. Maybe they didn't use that and they just had it as their relationship. It's just a bit weird, but
yeah,
there's nothing sexual about it. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I mean, I think the thing which is interesting about it for me is the fact that this idea that he basically he's recreating his mother, or he's always trying to become his mother to get over the guilt of killing his own, of actually murdering her. I think that's quite an interesting one. I don't know a lot about this kind of split personality, those kind of disorders, but I think this is pretty early on in terms of those sort of ideas being introduced into films. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not really up until this point had you had a film that, particularly in a horror film, that addressed this kind of underlying issue in people, as opposed to it just being, well, there's a monster that's, There
was a term that was coined for this. It was for Psycho. It was the first psychoanalytic thriller.
Right.
Where, as you said, these sort of themes were sort of introduced into a film, effectively.
And actually, with a theme like this, it allows them to, because, I mean, really, there are sort of, I think in Psycho, for me, there are sort of 3 or 4 key scenes where really, everything that's gonna happen is established, and they're in sort of 3 or 4 sort of key dialogue scenes, and the one of the big ones is obviously whenever Marion when she goes to the hotel and she has dinner with Norman, and it starts exchanging pleasantries. Again, we know that Anthony Perkins, he seems reasonably at ease. He's not a complete sort of awkward, introverted sort of weirdo. He seems in some ways quite at ease, and he's happy to ask her to have dinner with him and all this sort of stuff. And the conversation starts off a bit of exchanging pleasantries. And then the moment she says something about, I heard your mother talking to you, that must be awful having to listen to that. If it was me, I'd be getting out of there. You sure you should maybe put her in a home? And it's just it's a switch, and the dynamic just completely changes. And it's very dramatic because the whole way the thing's shot, it's very understated, and all of a sudden this guy has just become a completely different person, and it's quite alarming, and it's very powerful. It works really well.
Yeah, that's the difference between the two, isn't it? Is that you meet him and you're like, oh yeah, okay. There's nothing, you're not suspicious, nothing's really going on. It's almost in 2 halves, isn't it, the film? You have this first 45 minutes of just Marion and what she's doing, so you've got no idea where this is going at all. The first 45 minutes is, it's good, it's well shot, and there's certain things that are going on, but in either film, I'm not like, Marion, I'm not really that on board with Marion. Anne Heche, I'm, really not on board with Anne Heche, but with Janet Leigh as well, I'm like, yeah, okay, it's fine, but I'm not really that fast. But what do you think of because he goes to it's like a parlour, isn't it? Come have these just ransom-looking sandwiches in my parlour.
Oh, man. Well, I've got to say, I mean, the first warning sign is if a fully grown man offers you milk and sandwiches, I mean, that's your first cue to just get out of there. That's a very strange thing for a bloke to be offering. But yeah, sorry, parlour-wise, what do you say?
Well, it's so you got all the birds, all the stuffed birds.
The stuffed birds, yeah.
Now, what are we doing with those?
Well, I don't know.
What's meant by these stuffed birds?
Do you mean what is it symbolising?
Well, yeah, what's it symbolising? And other than it's just showing that Norman's got this hobby, which may be construed as slightly odd, and they reference it, so it's talked about. They have a chat about what he's doing, and he says, what does he say about hobby?
Oh, he says, a hobby's meant to fill time, not. Oh, sorry, a hobby is meant to pass time,
pass the time, not fill the time. Yeah, the scene's good and it's well shot. There's various sort of close-ups of Norman speaking, and then it goes back. It's cut between the two very well. And then when she says about, what about the mother? Like, she needs to. What are you doing with her? That's terrible. Like a dramatic zoom into the face. And he's like, sorry, what? What are you saying?
It's very, but it's like very. It's quite subtle because he sort of just goes, "Do you mean an institution?" And then all of a sudden, like that's it. He's off.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know whether it's a sort of reference to, obviously, if you're watching this for the first time, you wouldn't know where this is going and what's actually happened with his mother. But I don't know whether the whole taxidermy thing is about him trying to bring dead things back to life in some way. He's interfering with dead, the corpses of birds.
It just links him with the fact that he could do that to his mum. So he's already doing this as a hobby.
Yeah.
And then he wants to bring his mum back, and he's like, oh, that's worked out quite well, because I actually do this as a hobby, so I could just do this to my mum. Get the sawdust, lob it in, and just we're good to go.
Something like that. I don't know whether... he says something about how he doesn't like stuffed beasts. There must be something in that, because that seems significant, because he says that. He says, I like birds, but... Oh, because he says, birds work a bit stuffed because they're quite passive when they're alive. Whereas, I don't know whether he's suggesting that there's more.
Is there not something that potentially vulgar about the whole idea of stuffing birds? Is that not a thing where I don't really know how you can really explore that? I don't really know what I'm saying, but
no, I don't know.
Probably a UK slang.
Oh, for
term.
Birds. Oh,
it's like stuffing birds.
Oh, you think it's? You think the birds are women?
Well, I don't know.
I don't think it is. Surely not. Were they saying birds back in the 60s? I can't imagine old, Alfred sitting there going like, yeah, he's stuffing birds, mate. Yeah, he's stuffing birds. Nah, can't be.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just not seeing what's going on with these birds.
No.
What am I missing? Other than the whole idea of keeping things alive and.
Well, it's just. At the end of the day, it just paints the picture of this guy who's living on his own for all intents and purposes. He's living on his own, and he's just surrounded. The only company he has is hobby. And what he's surrounded by are just dead creatures, and he's trying to, and he takes corpses and he stuffs them and he tries to bring them back and he decorates his walls with them. He's just living amongst the dead, just living among dead things. It's the perfect environment for someone who's slightly unhinged to just go completely and utterly.
It's nowhere near as sexualized as Gus's one, but. There's obviously, it's still there within this one. You're getting the peeping Tom shot. The fact that he's dressing up as his mother, even if he wasn't killing people, he's got his mother up there, filled with fucking sawdust, dressed up. He's dressing up as her. He's speaking as he is her. I know the chat at the end where the psychiatrist comes in and starts, breaking down what the hell's going on. I know he says there's the whole transvestite element to it, and I imagine maybe at the time that was quite, not controversial, but, risky.
Well, something maybe people weren't familiar with, so it would have been more of a leap for people to, I don't know, I guess, yeah, it would have just been harder for people to grasp. But I think what he says is that it's not that in this case, because because ultimately this is all just about an illusion. This is about the moment that the bubble is threatened, i.e. the moment he may have to actually confront the fact that his mother is dead and that he's killed her and that the bubble's about to burst, the illusion's about to go. He has to then reinforce it by dressing up as and going to all these lengths to keep the thing alive.
I think that was one of the things that I saw briefly in the trivia was about how Hitchcock didn't like that end scene. His hands were sort of tied and I think he was forced to keep it in.
Which one?
The right at the end where the psychiatrist is basically explaining what's happening. And Norman has gone and we're just left with Mother.
Yeah.
I don't think Hitchcock really wanted that scene or it to be cut down because it is quite long-winded. He literally goes from start to finish what we've seen. If you don't know what's happening, this is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, it is. It's odd, isn't it? If you saw something similar in another film, you'd sit and go, why were they explaining the film to us right at the end like that? In a sort of textbook. You may as well have pulled up the chalkboard. It's done in such a way that, in some ways, I think it does enhance the creepiness slightly because even though he's sort of shedding light on what exactly is going on with this guy's mind, there still is all this kind of uncertainty, and you can't quite grasp the full extent of what's happened to this guy. And then obviously it ends finally with Norman sitting there, with the blanket around him, and he's got his hand, sort of this like gangly, bony hand sitting outside the blanket, and it's very good that last scene.
I'm not even going to swat this fly.
Yeah, I couldn't even hurt a fly.
Even that in the 98 one, like Vince Vaughan doing that, it's like, I'm sorry, Vince, but you're not going to get away with that. It's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
That is not going to work.
No.
What did you think of the start? Was there anything in particular with Marion and what she's doing and the car journey? What's going on with that in terms of how it's shot and how it's lit, where she's going from day into night and then it's zooming on her face. And there's that whole thing where she has that smile right at the end. She does like a Norman smile and grins.
It's just whenever she hears the voice of her boss realising that she's just stolen the money.
Yeah, so it's right at the end, yeah. So she's having the monologue of what she thinks they're talking about. The guy who the money's been stolen from is like, well, I'm going to get her back. I'm going to get that money back, or I'm going to take her flesh, or whatever he says. And she just has that little smile at the end.
I don't know whether she... I mean, I don't think the character is particularly sympathetic. I mean, she is she's an embezzler. She's stolen this money. She has... There's this bloke who, as far as we're concerned, is a very decent man who's running a decent business. He's straight down the line. He's uncomfortable about taking this guy's cash. So he's a straightforward bloke. He's trying to run a business. He trusts this woman. He gives her this his employee of 10 years, and he gives her this money and says, right, deposit this. And she steals from him, basically. And there's almost something where I don't know whether the smile is to suggest that there's almost an excitement element to what she's doing, that she's one of these types who actually lives for the excitement. She's completely self-absorbed, really. She doesn't care that she's stolen from this decent bloke who's trying to run a business. She doesn't really care what the ramifications are for him. And actually, she's getting a bit of a kick from this.
Yeah, well, she stopped shitting herself, hasn't she? She's reached a certain point where she thinks, "Oh, this is it.
This is it. I'm now on the run.
I've pretty much made it now. Yeah, I'm not worried anymore. Like, the guilt is gone. Even though she has a chat with Norman, and then she's like, "Oh fuck, actually, I'm going to have a quick rinse off, and then I'll go back again."
And I think as well that's almost what Norman picks up, because what he senses from, obviously, it's taken way too far, but what he picks up from her saying, almost what he perceives as being flippant, just put her in a home. He sort of senses someone who is very self-serving. She's here, she's on the run because she wants to try and better her own life. She doesn't care about her responsibilities. He sees looking after his mother, as far as we're concerned at that point, as his responsibility. And she's flippantly going, "Oh, just put her in a home and, live your life." And he thinks, well, hang on. There are actually responsibilities. I've got to look after her. Whereas she's very much, I've just run away from all my problems, and I'm just going to go to my own private island. And he thinks, oh, dear.
Well, it's set up, isn't it? Because some people, I guess, will take from it that she's trying to help out this guy that she's sleeping with. She wants them to get married and have their own life. He's lost his money through, I think he's paying for
alimony or something, yeah.
Yeah, so he's doing that. So, like, he's a working hard guy, he's trying to get by, he's been a bit screwed over by his wife, whatever. And she's taking from this bloke who has got loads of money. Comes in, starts flashing his cash around, going like, just, look after that for me. I may spend it, I may not, whatever. So you've got someone who's in desperate need of this money, and you've got this bloke who, realistically, if he loses that money, it's not the end of the world. So some people I'm assuming, will not sympathise, but will go, well, okay, fair enough.
What is going on with this guy she's seeing? Why are they sort of having this whole covert thing in the hotel?
God knows. Don't know.
Is he still married to his wife, technically, and he doesn't want an affair to complicate the settlement?
And it's the 60s, so it's that as well. It wasn't as blasé, was it, having these affairs and going to hotel rooms and doing all that. It wasn't quite as loose back then.
I thought initially that he was still married and that this was a full-blown affair.
Maybe just because he's not officially divorced yet. There's that. So if she seemed to be having illicit relationships with still married men,
then it's curtains.
It's a big no.
Yeah, but I do think that really she's a bit of a snake, actually.
What do you think of Janet Leigh? What do you think of her? Do you know who her daughter is? Of course. No. Oh God, that's Jamie Lee Curtis's mum.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Bloody hell! Wow, they don't look alike.
Well, that's what I thought. I think she must look like her dad, Tony Curtis. I think it's all from that. Because Jamie Lee Curtis is quite distinctive looking. Especially when she was younger, she was quite...
Yeah. Very distinctive looking.
She was interesting looking.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. No.
Psycho!
Yeah, interesting. Interesting stuff.
You sit here and think, God, what are the chances? Janet Leigh appears in one of the most famous horror films of all time, and her daughter goes on and appears in Halloween.
I know, yeah. It's quite
bloody
the run.
Hell.
It's quite the run for the
Some
family.
people get bloody lucky, don't they?
I know, yeah. What else are we talking about? What else have we got?
Well, what else have we got for me?
Sequel.
I need to look at that stuffing birds thing, actually, to see if that wasn't... I haven't actually completely pulled that out of my arse.
What, stuffing bird? I mean, I'd be surprised, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
I can't imagine him putting in something about it's the suggestion being that he's stuffing birds. Do you mean like stuffing like shagging birds?
Yeah.
No, it can't be. Stuffing.
Like you said on the...
Stuffing birds,
well, he was a Brit Hitchcock, you don't
He
know.
was, yeah.
It's like you said from, I think in our Fargo episode, which, I imagine will be out at this point.
Oh, yeah.
A few issues with that one, but, hopefully it was after Easter, maybe. You said about how people will find stuff that's just not there. Like in Taxi Driver, you used the example of, some guy was like, Scorsese, you got the smoke. It's coming from hell.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's just a bit of smoke.
It's New York. Means smoke.
Yeah, it means nothing. Something like Psycho, it's like, it's so famous. So many different people have sort of tried to interpret what the hell's going on with everything. So...
Oh, there'll be someone out there arguing it. I mean, there'll be people banding
that's the thing,
stuff around, yeah.
So when I find an article saying, like, it's just about stuffing birds, there you go. It's a load of shit, but it's like, well, you've got 10 people, 10 scholars here who are saying it, so it must be right.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, get back to me on that one. I'd be interested.
What else we got for Psycho?
Well, there's an abundance of stuff.
I think we spoke for about half hour on Psycho 98, and I think that was probably way too long, to be honest.
Yeah, but there are a few things in that you have to mention because
you could do an episode on it.
You could do an episode on it. Yeah,
it's just so unneeded.
It's just It's a coarse version of the original. It's a shot-for-shot remake, just coarser.
Yeah, it's just horrible. Actually, it doesn't help that I saw. Well, you saw them back to back, didn't you? Did you see them back to back? I saw Psycho Thursday and then this yesterday, 98 yesterday. So it's just, if it's not hideous enough, it just adds an extra layer of shit on top when you've got to watch them pretty much back to back, and you're like, oh man, it's the same film but just terrible.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What else is there? I do find Marion quite annoying. I think I keep bringing up. I'm not a huge fan of Marion.
I don't think you're meant to be though. I don't think she's not a sympathetic character really. I know she has the moment of clarity and she accepts, no, I've got to go back home and face up to, what I'm doing and do things properly. But really, up to that point, she's pretty objectionable. I don't...
Other than that, you're intrigued about where it's going to go. I don't know where it's heading, but it's going to go wrong. It always does, isn't it?
Of course
it does. I just find in Hitchcock's Psycho, it's just a bit too much. She speaks to the cop and she's doing that. And of course, it's the same in the 98 because it's obviously shot for shot. But she's running around the car sales place. Quickly! The cop's there, like fucking circling around. He comes over. I've got to go. Forgets her bag and her coat and stuff. And it's like, just fucking slow it down.
I know.
Marion, slow it down. I get it. You're in a rush, but just take it easy. Not her fault, is it? I suppose that's just the way Sir Alfred wanted it. I suppose. So.
Exactly. I think another thing probably worth mentioning is the stuff between the private detective and Norman. Whenever he goes in and to question Norman, he's obviously going. He's going through all the motels in the area that she may have stopped off in, and we see him whenever he goes and visits the Bates Motel. And again, it's that much like in the scene between Norman and Marion, whenever the switch flicks, it's quite similar to that. But in this case, the detective really starts putting pressure on Norman, and Norman goes from being reasonably calm and collected. He offers him some candies at the beginning, and by the end, he's just sort of stuttering. I think I've spoken to you as much as I want to, and he has to shut the conversation down there. I think that's very well done. The line of questioning and how it all kind of plays out. It's very well. It's well written, isn't it? It's well constructed.
Well, we should talk about the music, I suppose.
Oh yeah, the music, of course.
Yeah, we should probably mention the music.
The old Bernard.
Well,
Herrmann.
And of course, as a violinist over
yes.
there, what do you think of that shower stuff?
Well, it's it's very effective, isn't it? I actually think they may have. Well, I'm going to embarrass myself. I think they may have actually used or bowed the bit of the string that you'd never usually bow, and that if you do, it makes that awful kind of high-pitched scraping noise.
Is that several? I assume that's a couple of people.
Oh yeah, it'll be
smashing the violin. It's not just one bloke going like,
oh no. That'll be like just the whole team of them just doing that, and it's iconic, isn't it? And it is just a complete. It's a classy jump scare. I mean, it's not really a jump scare, but particularly the bit on the landing resembles a bit more of a jump scare. But it's just so iconic.
Hitchcock was known as the master of suspense, you see.
Oh, he's the master, absolutely.
Well, the thing is, it is though, because even that, I like it because the door swings open, so it's quite. Doors. Oh, right, here we go. He means business. Door swings open, but then he just creeps in. So it sets it up where maybe he's burst through the door and he's just going to burst through the shower curtain. But he creeps in. You get the sort of delay, and the music doesn't start kicking in straight away. He starts ploughing down with the knife, and then it starts when she's starts to scream. Then it kicks in.
Well, you get the scream. The scream is before the music starts, isn't it? So you just hear the sound of the shower curtain being whooshed to the side, and then her turning round, and there's a brief pause where it's like, right, what the hell am I looking at here? Because obviously, what you've got here, you've got an Anthony Perkins with a wig on, so it takes a bit of time to adjust to that and go like, oh man, and then obviously the horror floods into her.
Yeah, because it doesn't linger. in the fucking Vince Vaughn stuff, it lingered. We get several shots of backwards and forwards just looking at that rancid wig he's got on.
It's a shame because in the original...
It just looks rubbish.
It does. And there's also absolutely no question that it's... I know, because you don't see his face. So what I was going to say is, in the original, obviously, you could still, at this point, believe that is his mother.
Yeah. Whereas
I'm trying to think, in the 1998, do you see that it's Vince Vaughn in the...
You don't see his face, but it's just because it cuts between Marion and him several times. You're getting a lot more shots of Norman.
Yeah, you do.
So if you're interested, you could probably have a good look and go, I think that's Vince Vaughn, yeah. Vince Vaughn with some shit wig on. Hopefully you're not interested. So you're just like, yeah, okay, they're just reenacting one of the most famous scenes ever, just badly.
Yeah, let's just get to this anus bit.
Like, how's that even been sold? Oh, anyway, we've spoken about
it. We've talked about
how Gus has gone like, Anne, this is the shot we need. So, what do you think? Fucking hell. Jesus. But very iconic. Very iconic, of course. And I believe that wasn't even going to have any music. I think Hitchcock did the film and then wasn't that happy with it, and then gave it to, what's his name? Bernard Herrmann.
Bernard Herrmann, yeah. Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Well, he's done loads. I'm
pretty sure he's the same bloke who did the Harryhausen films that me and Fiona spoke about. Well, we spoke about Clash of the Titans. But then he added all the music in, and Hitchcock was like, well, yeah, that's... I think basically he was gushing about Herman's involvement in the film. He was like, he's had a big say in the film, because before the music. But I guess you can say that for a lot of films, can't you?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
We spoke about Jaws, didn't we?
Oh, yeah, a lot of Spielberg.
If the shark just comes up and there's no music, it's like, yeah, that's just a robotic shark eating someone. Like,
yeah, agreed.
Yeah, the shark looks pretty good, yeah, for the 70s, all right. But he ain't got that music to accompany it. It's like, well...
And think of some of that E.T. as well.
Yeah. Music can have a big influence on the quality of a film.
Oh, yeah.
More, sometimes. There's sometimes films that are really good and the music just sort of, adds an extra layer. Like, yeah, that's perfect. Some films maybe without the music would be 50% of the quality that it is.
Yeah, well, I think that's definitely the case with Psycho.
Yeah, well, any more Hitchcock stuff? What do you think of those camera movements and stuff?
Oh, well, the camera movements are fantastic. I mean, it's probably worth just talking now about just go to the end almost and talk about the big reveal where Marion goes into not Marion, was it Lila?
Her sister, yeah.
Her sister, she goes into the house to, she's looking for any evidence of Marion being there. And the big reveal that actually Norman's mother is a corpse sitting in the basement. In the original, so just original versus remake, similar, however, in the remake... in the original, it's very much just a cellar, whereas in the remake, it's a full-blown torture chamber-looking laboratory that Norman's got in his basement, which again is just, what is that? What is going on there? It looks like he's got state-of-the-art tech. He's got into PC World and bought some monitors. Like, it just does not have the really kind of eerie quality that just sort of damp-looking dirt-floored cellar has in the original. In this, we've got, spotlights, we've got monitors, we've got bird cages. I mean,
what's he doing down
Well, he must have had a bloke in to fit all that in. I mean, it's like the laboratory from Hollow Man. Like, it's...
Yeah, well, Kevin Bacon just popped in.
Kevin Bacon just walking around with the goggles on. It's not just a creep's basement. It's a full-blown laboratory.
Shit, isn't it? It's just shit. Fucking hell, Gus.
I know, what's that?
What's the choice there again?
And of course, whenever whenever Julianne Moore turns around in the remake, she's got a spider that comes flying out of the mouth.
Yeah.
Which, again, we're in sort of Indiana Jones territory there.
Where's the spider come from?
I don't know.
I think he's only moved her there yesterday. It's not like she's been there for 2 years,
exactly.
Untouched. He's going down every day anyway, putting the fucking monitors on.
So why, yeah. I'm feeding the birds.
It's just not, none of it just doesn't work. It's an utter embarrassment, all of it.
It is. I mean, it's a good scream from Julianne Moore. Her scream whenever she sees it.
I think Julianne Moore, if anything, is probably the best part of that film. Her character, compared to the original, it's very different. She's a bit more like feisty, a bit more aggressive.
There is also, whenever she turns around, unlike the original where Norman Bates comes in dressed as his mother with this completely crazed look on his face, and whenever he's being wrestled to the floor, he's almost screaming like his mother.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing's an absolute horror show because it's cut between him screaming with this absolutely insane look on his face and also the corpse.
When I first saw it, I was like, what's he doing? I watched it again. I was like, oh, that's quite effective.
It is very effective.
When I first saw it, I was like, what's he doing with his face? But that's kind of the point, isn't it?
That is the point, because at that point he has completely become his mother, and that definitely is what comes across. But in the original, she looks at the spider comes blowing out of the mother's mouth. Julianne Moore screams, looks round, and you just get old Vince Vaughan there, sort of creeping towards her with this like slightly
with that wig but on backwards.
The wig on with this kind of slightly I don't know, this kind of schoolgirl's grin on his face, moving very slowly towards her.
He's in a bit of a rush, isn't he? So he's run up the stairs. He's gone, where's that wig? Fucking hell, quick.
Yeah.
Splats that on the head like the wrong way. Grabs the knife, but then he manages to find the time to creep downstairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
And then he just gets plonked over the head with a frying pan or something, because old Viggo Mortensen wakes up.
He's back, yeah.
And just, grabs the frying pan and just clobbers him over the head with it. And there's no screaming, there's no real tussle, there's just Vince Vaughn with that wig flowing around.
It's not the actor's fault, is it? Like we've said, it's no one's fault. They've been given probably a nice hefty paycheck. They've done the best they could. I think all of them pretty much were still kind of, Julianne Moore was getting there, but she wasn't like a superstar. No. And Vince Vaughn was just starting off. So you're not going to say no, are you? Realistically, just to have your name attached to Psycho, exactly. It's like, yeah, all right, that makes sense. But it's just a complete misstep from everyone, isn't it? Entirely.
But no, I mean that's it. I mean they're the main components which definitely stand out for me. The key discussion between Marion and Norman, the detective line of questioning and how that works between the two of them, and then the shower scene, the scene on the landing, this reveal, and then that last scene. They're the main things for me that stick out.
The thing with Hitchcock films is that when you see him doing certain things, certain techniques, how he moves the camera, without seeing some of his films, even for you, if you've only seen sort of a handful of his film, you've seen it. You've seen his techniques, you've seen his shots, you've seen how he does certain things. It's like you've already seen it, because it's just everyone uses it as an example on how to do something, how to build suspense, how to shoot a certain scene. People today, directors, are taking techniques from Hitchcock and applying it to their own films. So you've seen it. Well,
I mean, just thinking about a film we've watched recently, in Indiana Jones, whenever those skeletons pop out of the wall, there's got to be influence from Psycho. I mean, that slow turnaround of the rotting corpse. I mean, that's absolutely iconic. That's been mirrored, and the slight almost wobble, because whenever she rotates it, the thing almost sort of, whenever it then comes to rest again, it sort of wobbles side to side, and it's after that wobble that you then cut back to the character reacting to the horror, and it's that almost slight delay between the characters processing what are they actually seeing. It's like whenever Norman comes into the shower and there's that delay, she turns around. And there's that moment where the horror comes into her face and she realises what's in front of her. And it's the same thing. It's that slight delay, and it's all about timing. If someone starts screaming too early, the whole thing just turns into a screaming match.
There's even bits where the camera's just moving around at the start, where Marion's just sort of getting ready to leave, and it moves from the money to the suitcase back to Marion. Which you look at it and think, yeah, like, I'm not saying I could do that, but it's pretty simple. We're just moving around the room and seeing what's going on without anyone saying anything, without any dialogue. We're getting what's going on. We're getting what she's doing. Oh, she's going to take the money, she's going to run off. Great. But I think even then, that was so well done. It seems simple, but that's probably because, one, obviously it is simple, and two, we've now seen that kind of stuff to death. So,
no, very good stuff. Not really a lot more you can say. I mean, it's just excellent. Yeah, it's very good, actually. I mean, I've like I said, I've seen it before, but this time I really thought, yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. Yeah.
I think this was Hitchcock's only horror film, wasn't it? I think definitely his first, like actual out-and-out horror film.
Well, The Birds.
Yeah, that was after. Oh,
right.
So
I
think this was actually his first official horror film, which is interesting. He must have, he obviously chose to film it in black and white, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think maybe, I don't know if that was like budget restraints on top of the fact that he wanted to try something, do like it, because it's sort of it does have sort of a B movie element to it a little bit. So maybe to do with the fact that I think it was Paramount were like, yeah, this is going nowhere, Alfred. Like we don't really want to give you a lot of money for this. I don't think it's going to make a lot of money. So I don't think he had a lot of support anyway. Another bit of trivia that I saw, I think he did the whole thing where he said, oh yeah, well, don't pay me my salary, I'll just take a cut of the profits.
Oh yeah.
Well, fucking hell. Well, of course. I think Hitchcock cleaned up. I think he cleaned up. I think he took about 60% of the profits of the film. So I think he made, I don't know what he made, maybe like $15-20 million.
Budget, so 806,000. Obviously, I don't know whether that's in today's money, Because I was just thinking, so 40,000 is enough to buy a house. And obviously, if they're sort of doing a 1-to-1, 40 becomes 400,000, which is, I guess, is enough to buy a house. 400,000. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking absolute bollocks.
Yeah, money, mate. Yeah, lots of money.
But yeah, it couldn't have been a massive budget. This couldn't have been.
No, it wasn't. No, films before, I think, like sort of Vertigo, North by Northwest, the budget had been considerably bigger. Briefly, I think there was a French film. I've got it somewhere. Les Diaboliques, I believe.
Okay.
Which apparently is very good, and I think that's what Hitchcock wanted to originally do.
Right.
And then I think the rights were bought by someone else. I think Hitchcock just missed out on them. So they're quite different. I haven't seen it, but apparently it's absolutely top notch. It's this 1955 French horror film. I think I might watch it today, actually. Apparently it's good stuff. There's a scene in the bathtub, I think, which is obviously not like the shower scene, but it's kind of got similar elements to it. It's very creepy. It's very iconic. But I think he missed out on that.
The wife and is it this? The wife and mistress of a loathed school principal plan to murder him with what they believe is the perfect alibi. Yeah. Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. I think Psycho's based on a book, and I think the book is, like, chunks of it are different. No, Norman's different anyway. I think the character of Norman's very different. But yeah, so, there's all that as well. There's all that good stuff. Bit of French horror for you if you fancy it.
Well, yeah. And not the French extreme, which is, more recent.
We're not a high tension level yet.
No.
We're not there. Yeah, well, there you go. Another one ticked off the list. A bit of Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, just bring it on.
Top echelon, I think, of directors, isn't he? Surely he's got to be probably top 10 of all time, isn't he? I think comfortably.
No, I mean he's pretty good. Yeah, I think he's got some in that bloke. But yeah, well there you go. All right, well until next time.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Right, okay, tell everyone, God.
So you can find us on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, and on TikTok, but Ben doesn't usually use TikTok that much anymore because he just can't.
Does someone have a child?
And if you'd like to leave a review, please like, share, and comment, and you can find us on all the podcasts and sites. Good Pods.
Good Pods, yeah, Podchaser. Obviously Apple, there's always
Spotify stuff.
Room for a review there.
Yep.
Send in your
15-second reviews.
I forgot about that on the last episode.
Thank you.
Have you endured many sleepless nights, tossing and turning, dreaming of a podcast where a man awkwardly attempts to waffle you to sleep whilst reviewing a film? Please head over to www.filmfloggers.com, where you can find out more information on the Waffler. I'll see you in your dreams or nightmares.